Welcome to the Real Stories channel. Come discover amazing stories. I had a rather peaceful life. I was married, childless, and deeply in love with my wife. I made my living by driving 2 trucks and delivering everything from furniture to goods across state lines. One of my friends worked with me and we split the profits from our deliveries. He was more than just an employee, he was a longtime friend, and we got along famously. Until I found out he was sleeping with my wife. He took advantage of our friendship and easy access to my home, and it was a devastating blow to my entire life. When I found out, it was too late and everyone seemed to know about it already. It turns out that many people knew about their affair, including the fact that my friend was also married. When their relationship was exposed, they decided to run away together and start a new life in the interior of Sao Paulo. I didn't have any children, but that coward Tinga abandoned his wife and 2 kids and simply took off with mine. Everyone knew about it, and it was a small town, so I felt utterly humiliated and defeated. It was so bad that I couldn't even walk down the street without feeling like everyone was talking about me behind my back. It was just too much to bear, so I made the decision to leave town, just like Chico Moro did. Luckily, I had a cousin who lived in Colombo who I could stay with. Well, I was talking to him on the phone and he told me he could easily arrange for a transport company here in the Curitiba region for me to become a partner with my trucks. That's when I decided to come, because I felt so humiliated that I don't think I could have stayed for another week in the place where I lived. You know how it is in a small town, everyone knows everything that happens to others. Imagine losing the woman I loved, finding out she was cheating on me with my best friend, and then being pointed at on the street. Time is a thief. Do you think it would be better to sell one of the trucks and use the money to establish ourselves here in Curitiba without so much stress? And also give some money to Jamie's wife, because poor thing, she had nothing to do with it. So, I let Oliva know about my decision to come here. What I didn't imagine was that I would face that surprise in the week I was leaving. But life takes unexpected turns. Jamie's oldest daughter, Joelma, contacted me and I was surprised. "Hey, Joelma, what's up? Is everything okay?" She looked at me and said, "I wanted to talk to you, sir." There was quite an age difference between us. She was about 18 or 19 and I was 41, but she always called me, sir. So, I didn't want to ruin the dynamic we had. What surprised me was the request she had for me. At some point, she mentioned that her mother had told her I was coming to Curitiba and the metropolitan region to try and rebuild my life here. And to my surprise, she made that request. Would it be possible to take me with you as a symbol?" "Take you with me? What do you mean, Joelma?" "Well, sir, you're not going to Curitiba without me, you? Soon, I can work for you, doing laundry, cooking, taking care of you. If you're alone, you'll need someone." "Did your mother know about this?" "I'm handling it." "Yes, sir," she replied. "I spoke to her before coming here." "Oh, and she agreed to it?" She just nodded, confirming that she knew about it. It was such a big surprise because it's the most surprising thing in the world, and I wasn't expecting it. Honestly, at the time, I didn't know if it was a good idea. Let's face it, the girl couldn't have been more than 18 or 19 years old. And who knows what she's like? Good morning in Syria, no one less than the man who ruined my marriage and my life, who ran off with my wife. And it was because of that I was unhappy and having to leave everything behind, practically starting from scratch in the city. And suddenly, his life was right in front of me, asking me to take her with me. I mean, I didn't know what to say, whether yes or no. I told her I would talk to her mother first, and to my surprise, her mother already knew everything. Joelma hadn't lied, and her mother knew about her intention to come with me here. She even added that if it's better for her, Cicero, and if you could take Joelma with you, I would be eternally grateful. You see, it's going to be difficult for me to see her now, and the truth is that I did everything without thinking. You know, everything was new, and I wasn't in my right mind. My mind was all over the place after everything that had happened, and I simply agreed to that madness. Let's face it, it was madness to move here permanently, and I had already come here. I had rented a house near my cousin's house, and it worked out. And of course, I did everything myself. And Joelma ended up coming with me. She was going to stay there with me in my house and help me with everything that was necessary. I just didn't say that I wanted to give her a salary because we also needed to establish the region well, even though there was some money left over from the team that I had put in the bank from the sale of one of the trucks. But we'll figure the rest out. I'm managing to establish myself thanks to God, and I convinced some transport companies to work with me in public. Eventually, I ended up quitting one of them, and since the truck was mine, I would pay a percentage of the fare it transported. And this way, we managed to establish the business, and it wasn't easy, especially at the beginning, but with time, everything started to work out. Because I have always been very hardworking, even when my head was confused or depressed, I would keep going. And then, after a certain point, around 3.5 months ago, the closeness with Joelma started to grow slowly, and I felt a kind of affection from her, which, combined with all the loneliness and disappointment that I had left behind because of the panel, made things between us change over time. And I repeat, I was 41 years old at the time, and only later did I find out that she had just turned 19, so there was a 22-year age difference. Even so, with time, it just happened naturally and spontaneously, and when I realized it, we were living as husband and wife in that house, my God. And especially at the beginning, I kept thinking, who would have thought this would happen? Fabia's video has many surprises in store for us, ones that you can hardly imagine. I found myself involved with Jamie's daughter, the same Jamie who had deceived me with my wife, causing her to flee with my lover. Suddenly, I found myself in his shoes, since my life there was no longer tenable. Jamie's daughter appeared before me, expressing her desire to come with me. The last thing I expected was for us to end up living together as husband and wife in a new house in Colombo. I never would have imagined it in my wildest dreams, especially since I had never looked at that girl, Alicia, with any sort of romantic interest. It just didn't make sense. But as I soon discovered, life has a way of presenting us with unexpected situations, ones that we never could have imagined. To me, she was just a girl, my friend's daughter. However, as time went by, I started to realize that she had grown into a beautiful woman. The intimacy we shared within the confines of that house changed everything. I don't think I had ever been as lonely or in need of affection as I was then. As a matter of fact, our closeness eventually led to us becoming a couple, and she even managed to accomplish what I had never thought was possible. She made me forget about Kaina and the suffering I had endured. To my delight, she became pregnant shortly thereafter, and we had our first child. Sometimes, after experiencing great disappointment, we can think that we'll never be able to stand up again or smile spontaneously. But anyone who seeks happiness in life will eventually find something that makes it all worth it, something that seems almost like a miracle and changes everything. Or at least that's what happened to me. In the end, God gave me the best gift I could have in life, a wonderful wife and the son I always wanted. Since then, the world has gotten a little bigger with the arrival of our son 5 months ago. We decided to visit my mother-in-law, who still lived in the same wooden house. I wanted her to meet our little grandson, so we took my truck. What I didn't expect was to be faced with yet another surprise when we got there. I saw, to my astonishment, Jamie the traitor appearing in the window of Joelma's mother's house. My whole body was shaking, even though we were already living in a completely different situation. At that moment, my first urge was to fly at his neck or grab a gun and shoot him in the face. After the surprise, only doubt remained: what was he doing there? When Joelma came through the door, I was left standing on the sidewalk not knowing what to do. It was the first time I had looked at that bastard's face after discovering that he was seeing my ex-wife. They left together, and unfortunately I haven't heard from either of them since. And now, here we were. I felt a shiver just imagining that she could be there. The chill in my spine was intense. When visiting Joelma's mother to meet her grandson, I came across a naughty guy. I know exactly how I felt when everything that had happened came back to me like a flash. He, too, stood impassively at the window, looking at me as if he wanted to make fun of me, and we hadn't told him we were coming, so no one was waiting for our arrival. Joelma had to take us by the hand, otherwise I don't think we would have entered that house. Reflecting on the urge I had to kill that guy. Needless to say, the atmosphere there was awful. We entered through the door and Joelma's mother welcomed us, holding our son in her arms while the other people were hanging from the windows, not looking at anyone. After some time, Joelma went to greet him and tried to give him a hug, but he greeted her with that weirdest face in the world, as if someone was looking at him when he was the one who should be the target. After that, Joelma looked at her mother's face, as if asking what she was doing, and my mother pulled her aside and told me the news. He had come home and talked to Miguel. Joelma's mother had decided to give marriage one more chance. I didn't make any comments to Joelma and, as it was too tight to hear everything, she gave me that look that already said it all, and he didn't even say a word to me. In fact, he didn't even look at my face. If I had known I was going to go through that situation, I swear to God I wouldn't have gone. I would have bought a bus ticket. Afterwards, Joelma went to visit her mother and the canary ended up running away. He only returned at the end of the day. I swear to God, if I hadn't been so tired from the journey, I would have gotten in that truck and gone back that very night, just by looking at that poor guy's face. As I breathed the same air he was answering, my stomach fluttered. I don't know how I managed to keep my balance and not fly into customs. I remained calm and respected my wife, my son, and my own dignity, especially for being under her roof and inside her house. I learned later that the romance between him and my ex-wife didn't last even a year, and that he had come back with his tail between his legs, asking for forgiveness and begging for one more chance. She had no option but to comply with the request. I haven't heard from Kaina. I just learned that she had also returned to the city, which made my chest tighten. She had destroyed my life for nothing. Phoebe went out into the world with men not to spend more than 8 months together. That's what I was told. And in the end, it was even better, because I ended up getting along thanks to everything that happened after we met face to face again. With Jamie, some time later, I decided to have a very serious conversation, and he spent almost half an hour just listening, without even looking at my face. With all the certainty of shame, he recognized that he had wronged me and that he had been ungrateful. As if I had to admit, the risk he took with my son was enormous, and God only knows how I regret it. Would never do that again. I know it's no use, but I'm aware and I apologize. It wasn't an easy decision. I lost a few nights of sleep and it wasn't overnight. But, for my wife and our son, I decided to give one more chance to the one who was my best friend in the past and who, one day, I discovered to be involved with my wife. You told me this could happen in a little game. But at that stage, when I found out about the betrayal, I hardly believed it. Despite the complicated situation, I decided to make an effort and give him one more chance, inviting him to come live with us. Who knows, we may resume our partnership in relation to the truck and, in the future, become friends again. I'm not being weak by forgiving him, which is something I've heard from some relatives, but life has taught me that holding hurt and resentment only brings suffering. I do this on behalf of my son and especially my wife, who has become everything to me. She is the air I breathe, the second in my heart, and simply the love of my life. She's the woman I've always hoped for, having thought she'd found love with my ex-wife and found out she wasn't. But as the saying goes, there's always one more chance, and mine came strangely and unexpectedly, but what matters is that it all worked out and I'm finally with the love of my life.